In this video, we're going to talk about how to go from a rule to a table to a graph with efficiency. So let's check in on rule. So you should remember from past years that y equals mx plus b. So again, you're taking notes on this to have this in review. So remember, y and x are your variables. M and b are standing in for constants, numbers. M is your slope. But another way to think about slope is growth. And that's how we're going to think about it here to help us make a quick table. And b is our y-intercept in the graph. But another way to think about that is with a starting point. So if you think back to your tables, your tile patterns, when you worked on this last year, this is the starting point. So when we make a table, we want to start with the starting point. So think about doing the starting point, and then we grow our table. That would be your step 2, is to grow according to the table, according to the rule, excuse me. So that's kind of the 2 steps I want you to think about when you're making your table. And then making your graph, you're just going to plot it, which you've done many a times. So the example here. So we start with looking at our rule. So we see that our m value is a 3. So 3 is our m. Our growth is going to be 3. And then we see that there is no b value. When it's missing, the b value is going to be 0. It's non-existent, right? So we're going to start at 0. We're going to grow by 3. And when we're talking about start, we're really talking about the 0 term. So we're talking about at the very beginning, not into the negatives. We're not going to go back in time. We're going to start at 0. We're going to put our 0 term here. That's our starting point. So if you need to add that, that's at x equals 0. And now we're going to grow by 3. So what that means is we're going to, as we move up in the table, we're going to grow by 3. So in this case, the 1 will be 3. And then we grow by 3 again. And by 3, we're saying we're adding 3. So we're going to get 6. 3 plus 3 is 6. Now, of course, if I go backwards, I should go back in my growth and undo the growing by 3. So I'd be at negative 3. And then negative 6. We could always check to see that this makes sense to us by going back to the rule and plugging in the point. So I could plug in negative 2 just to check my work and see that it works. This is what you saw in your last video, 3 times negative 2. We see that that would be negative 6, just like we saw in the table here. So now we have a complete table, and now we'll graph points. Now when you're graphing points in MyOpenMath, a really good hint is to graph the topmost point and the bottom, so like the 2 extremes, we'd call it. So it would be smart to graph negative 2, negative 6 in MyOpenMath, and then you'd go over to up 6, and that would create a nice line that the computer would grade correctly. In this case, I could graph all the points, and I can see a nice straight line and feel assured that I probably got it right. So there's your graph. So let's take a look at one more example. This time we have a different b value. So this example, now we have a b value of 3. This is my b value. And my m is this x value. So we look at how many x's are there. Again, there's no number in front of the x, but I know that that means 1x, and so my slope is 1. So anytime there's a missing number in front of x, if x exists, then the slope is 1. So now we're going to start at 3. So again, remembering that b is our start, so we're going to start at 3. At 0, we will be at 3, and then we're going to grow by 1. And so we're going to grow by 1 each time. And so 3 plus 1 is 4. And we grow by 1 again, and we get 5. And then we go backwards in our table, 2 and 1. So we can see our growth of 1 in the table as we work up in numbers, and we can also see our starting point of 3. And again, now we graph the points. We'll graph the extremes, negative 2, 1. It's going to be here. And then we'll graph 2, 5, 2, 5 way up here. And we'd have a nice straight line, and that's what you would graph in MyOpenMath. And again, if all these other points are right, they should fall on the line, which they do. So that is how we reviewed graphing or making a quick table using more strategic methods. Reach out to your teacher if you need help. Thanks for watching.